Good evening to all the participants. I am Dr. KVN Rao, Head of the Department Mechanical Engineering, VMU Institute of Technology, and convener of this program. So I hope now you may be able to receive that audio. We are waiting for the resource person. The class impact will commence at 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. Till then, kindly bear with us.
Sir, Elizaran sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Sara has came, sir. Just
Yes,
we'll
sir.
start now, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, Hema Magesh. Okay. Good evening, all of you. This is Dr. C. Ellerson, professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, VMU Institute of Technology. I take this opportunity to give a warm welcome to our expert, Dr. P. Vivekanand Shanmuganathan, professor from Dayananda Sagar University, Bangalore. He has completed his PhD from IIT Bombay and MTech in PhD Tech and BE in a Government College of Engineering, Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu. He has started his career as research associates with PhD Tech, where he worked on projects related to robot vision, path planning, and computer-aided process planning. He has been instrumental in getting VAT into international academic partnership under Erasmus and Mundus, Erasmus Plus, and STINT programs with a number of European universities. Through these projects, students and faculty members received funding up to 1.50 crores for higher studies and exchange visits. He has visited a number of universities in Europe and Southeast Asia. His academic association has been significantly with the master's programming in mechatronics and automotive engineering, teaching courses such as robotics, mechatronics, MEMS, vehicle dynamics, typology, and advanced vibration engineering, apart from other regular courses. He was co-principal investigator for a project titled Studies on Using Biosignals for Robotic Prosthetic Devices that received a funding of rupees 21.67 lakhs from DST. His area of interest are robotics, automation, vision, and multi-body systems. Finally, I welcome all the participants for this 1 week FDP program. Thank you all. Once again, I give warm welcome on behalf of our participants and VMU Institute of Technology to our professor, Dr. P. Vivekananda Swaminathan, to give a talk on the robot dynamics and part planning. Thank you, sir. Now I hand over the session to Professor expert. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ellerson.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for a long and nice introduction. So we have how many? Oh, okay. You are displaying it on the screen there, or how is it being presented?
What's up?
No, it all participants are online only.
Yes, sir. All are in online only, sir.
Because only right now only two, apart from you and I, only two are there. So,
okay, that's
no, there are 113. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There are 113 participants.
13 participants are there. Yes.
It's really immense. So,
yes, sir.
130, all from your own college?
No, sir. From various other states also there, sir. Various
so-
universities, colleges from other states also, sir.
Oh, then it's a very, very successful program.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you.
I congratulate WEMO Institute of Technology for organizing this program and giving me an opportunity to give a presentation on robotics. So, in fact, I visited WEMO Institute of Technology some years ago. I don't know, maybe 4 years ago or so. I visited. So it's a great opportunity to meet with you all again, though online. So this also gives us an opportunity to, so far we've been using only whiteboards and blackboards. So now it gives me an opportunity to make some permanent forms like PowerPoint. So let me see how much I can do justice to this, because unfortunately this is the peak of the semester for me, and coming June 1st onwards, our final exams are starting. So I could not do much justice to the technical topic, but I will try my best from whatever material I have. So please excuse with me. And if required, I'm always available for a top-up lecture, maybe in future, a couple of weeks later, online or offline. So good evening to all participants again. So today's topic, I'm actually tomorrow also I'm meeting you. I'm planning to cover 2-3 topics. One is robot dynamics, and the other one is path planning. So I will try my best to give a coverage. It's very difficult to cover this topic within 1 hour. So let me try my best. So before that, could you tell me whether my audio is okay? Hello?
Yes, sir. Audible, sir. It is audible.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I'm using headphone. Now I
Yes,
want to
sir.
test my. How is this now? How is the? Which one is?
It is audible only.
This is better, or the previous one is better?
Previous one is better, sir.
Previous one is better, I think so, sir.
Okay. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
with headphone. So I will continue to use the headphone. Probably lighting is not very good anyway. So once I start my PowerPoint presentation, my face will become less of importance. So I don't have a single presentation for this. So I will have to move with multiple PPT files. In the meantime, I will put my title slide, and you can have some publicity. You are able to see the PowerPoint slide?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay. So please interrupt me anytime. So the coverage of content is not an issue. So even if 5% of my lecture reaches, I would like a larger audience to, I wanted to reach a larger audience. So the last couple of months, I'm giving, thanks to Corona, I'm giving lectures online to my students. So lectures go on sometime 2 to 2.5 hours. So I'm happy you'll be able to manage this online presentation. So, yeah, I was very close to Chittoor for the past 15 years. I was with Vellore Institute of Technology for 15 years. And now after that, I moved to this institute. So I'm here for the past 3 years, where I teach robotics, automatic control, and and mechanical vibrations. So quickly, I'm sorry. I think if there is an audio interruption, I'm sorry, because this audio was. I guess you won't receive audio now. So I think tomorrow you are having a presentation by Dr. Santakumar. So I will not spend a lot of time on general concepts. Today, I would like to cover as much as possible. My lecture, I would like to keep it more and more analytical as possible. So if you feel that my lecture today looks like an applied maths course, please bear with me. That is what I intend to. So these are the different types of there's an introduction between difference between robots and automatic machine, and the difference is gradually coming. So once upon a time, aircraft was not a robot, but an automobile is not a robot. But the moment it becomes driverless, we are talking of drones. Drones are robots. So anything unmanned can be called robots. So actual definition of robot keeps on changing. So dishwasher is not a robot, because it will do only one particular task. But robots can do a variety of tasks. That's one thing. And today's robots are also gaining more and more intelligence. So yeah, next slide is a. Oh, I think there is an I think automatic timer set in. So please bear with me. I don't know how to remove that. If anybody in the meantime can tell me how can I remove this automatic timing, so I'll do that. So yeah, this is next slide. Different types of robots, and you can classify robots by locomotion. I took this from the reference. I took this from the. So please hold on. Let me see whether I can change the slide timing. Okay, thank God, I have done it. So by locomotion, we can classify robots. The first row are stationary robots, mostly used for industrial applications. For industrial application, use stationary robots. Depending upon the motion of the axis, in CNC machines also you called axis. So Cartesian robot will move along XYZ axis, similar to a microscope used in the lab. And cylindrical robots will have a vertical prismatic axis, and then and also rotational motion about the same axis. Then one linear axis. Spherical axis, it will be like using a motion along a spherical coordinate system. There will be theta, phi, and the radial length r. SCARA is another type of robot, usually used for low load applications. Okay, all the joints will be rotational except one prismatic joint, which may be either in the end effector or near the pillar as the first link. And this one is a Puma type of industrial robot, widely used in automobile industries. A lot of packaging industries, especially food packaging industries, chocolate packaging industries, biscuit manufacturing industries, they use their load is very less. A biscuit box or chocolate pack does not weigh too much. So for that, productivity of assembly is more, productivity of packaging is required. and the robot need not carry a lot of weight. So in that case, the low payload applications, Delta type of robot is available. So the last one is a Delta type of robot. There are different wheeled robots available. In the Dashavadara movie by Kamal, you might have seen this type of two-wheeled robot. Okay, so then there are tracked robots which are available. Legged robots is a recent fascination. You can have one-legged robot. Bipedal robot, this is actually built by Honda. This is named ASIMO, Advanced Step in Innovative Mobility, ASIMO, ASIMO. And you can have tripedal robots with 3 legs, quadrupedal 4 legs, hexaped 6 legs, and you can also have robots that are designed after, or the design is copied from insects and caterpillar, etc. Swimming robots and underwater robots. Underwater robots are different. Swimming robots are biologically similar to fishes, whereas underwater robot need not. It may go underwater, but it need not look like a fish or some other animal. Flying robots. This is actually built by Festo. So it will look very similar to a bird. And robotic balls and swarm robots, another area. Modular robots, where you can dismantle the components. Snake robots and insect robots. Nano robot. Insect robots is a reality today. Nano robots is becoming very soon a reality, and people are working on it. Snake robots can be used, wherever the entry point is very small. You can go for snake robots, crawler robots. Hybrid robots will be a combination of all these things. So soft robotics is another emerging area. So in soft robotics, so like our lips, like our tongue, they are all very flexible and soft, but still they will be able to do very powerful tasks. So this is an emerging area, soft robotics. For example, the fins of fishes are soft. Okay, so these are different configurations of industrial robots and the corresponding work volume. Work volume is all the points that the robot tool, the tool of the robot, or the end effector, or the hand of the robot can reach. That is called work volume. Sum of all the points. Work volume or workspace, it is called. So we have discussed about the different configurations of the robot already. This is an industrial robot, very popular configuration. This is one configuration called Puma, Programmable Universal Manipulator for Assembly. This is widely used in the industry. So, we don't bother about kinematics, dynamics of machine tools like CNC machines or lathes. So we don't bother about that because the structure is made so rigid. Whereas robot, the structure is highly optimized. At the same time, the tool can be removed and you can change the tool anytime. So the structure, the kinematics is very complicated. This is a chain type, kinematics is chain configuration, open chain they call it. So for example, the first axis to the next axis, last axis, it is like a chain. It's called open chain because the last axis is not connected to the first axis, unlike in the case of a 4-bar mechanism. I assume that most of the audience is mechanical, but they're looking, I think the audience is actually distributed. But I think you will be able to manage. Different types of joints are used, and joints are denoted by the degrees of freedom. So you can have single degree of freedom. Degrees of freedom is the number of independent variables required to define the motion along a particular axis. For example, in XYZ configuration, you need 3 degrees of freedom, means 3 variables X and Y, X, Y, and Z, all 3 are independent. So similarly, when you talk of industrial robot consisting of a large number of joints, and each joint may be actuated by a motor, so it's very important to find out how many degrees of freedom are there. So main type of joints used in the robot robots are prismatic joints or revolute joints. So prismatic joints will have linear motion or translational motion. Revolute joint will give rotational motion. So most of these I'm just giving like a review, so I'm not going to spend much time. And this one is a Hooke's joint, a spherical joint. Most of you are familiar. Hooke's joint is, if you look at the underbelly of an automobile, a truck or a bus, you may be able to see the Hooke's joint in the transmission shaft. Power from the engine shaft is power from the gearbox to the rear axle is transmitted to through the power transmission shaft, which is connected by this type of Hooke's joint. Hooke's joint will have 2 degrees of freedom. Spherical joint will have 2 degrees of freedom. So this is a spherical joint will have 3 degrees of freedom. Some spherical joint will have only 2 degrees, and full spherical joint will have 3 degrees of freedom. That means rotation about x-axis, rotation about y-axis, and rotation about z-axis. No translation about any of these axes. Okay. For example, look at this blue colored object, which is a sphere, and it is inside a hollow sphere, which is pink colored. Okay. So the distance between these two objects will not change, but the orientation between these two links will change. In fact, somebody has actually made this. So using motors. So you can find further details in the reference given. And somebody has also made a method for actuation of these things. Okay. So this is like a conventional motor, but it is spherical. Whereas here he is using a conventional motor. Using that, he has built a spherical, the output may be equivalent of a spherical robot. Whereas in this case, the joint itself is spherical. Whereas in this case, the output is equivalent of the spherical joint. So parallel robot is another one. The difference between the parallel robots and the previous robot, I was talking about open kinematic chain. Open kinematic chain or serial kinematic chain. In the case of serial kinematic chain, joint 1, joint 2, joint 3, joint 4, up to joint N, last joint. Okay, last joint will not be connected to any other joint. Whereas look at this simple 4-bar mechanism. So you have the O is joint 1, A is joint 2, B is joint 3, then O dash is joint 4. Okay, now fourth joint is connected to, look at the first joint O and fourth joint O dash, both are connected to the same platform. Therefore, it forms a loop. So this kind of robot is called, this kind of configuration is called parallel configuration. In parallel configuration, it is possible to have motors at both O and O dash. Okay. So whereas in the case of in the serial type of thing, this O dash last joint will be free. So you can't have any motor at the last joint. Whereas in the case of a parallel configuration, you can have motor or joint, actuated joint or motor at O dash last joint also. They are now becoming more popular, especially in the first slide. In the first slide, I showed you the delta configuration. It's a parallel configuration. Okay. So why do we need parallel configuration? For example, if you want to carry only a water bottle, you need only one arm. But if you want to carry a chair, you need to carry with both the arms. Okay. And if you want to carry a table, even if you use 2 arms, it's not sufficient. You need 1 more person or 2 more persons to support this. This is called parallel manipulation. Parallel manipulation means more than one system, is one robot or branch of robot is required to carry an object. Okay. So when the object is very long or when the object is very heavy, one robot or one robot or 1 or 2 motors may not be able to support the load. So therefore, we go for parallel actuation. The other advantage of parallel actuation is it's kind of teamwork, you can say. So suppose my load is located at C. So this load will be supported by link OA and link OB, link O-B. That's the advantage. 4-bar mechanism cannot be used for robots, but you can see this kind of configuration. So let me just work out something. Yeah, please just wait for 5 seconds. Oh God, I don't see my mouse. Yeah. Okay, so you see something now. So this is called 2-link robot, link 1 and link 2. So you have 2-link robot. This is a serial chain robot, because joint 1, I'll have a motor at joint 1, I'll have a motor at joint 2. Okay, only 2 motors will be required. It's a 2 degree of freedom system, because theta 1, theta 2 will define the motion of the tool connected at the end effector, tool or end effector. End effector is a general terminology to mean the tool. Okay, now what will happen? Suppose I carry only 1 kilogram at the end effector. Let's say the external load is only 1 kilogram or 1 Newton at the end effector. It's fine. I can have one motor at joint 1, another motor at joint 2. Okay. Suppose it has to carry 100 kilograms. Then maybe I will need a bigger motor at joint 1, another bigger motor at joint 2. Let's say if I have to carry 1000 kilogram at maximum allowable acceleration at the end effector, then what will happen? This link 1 and link 2 may break because of overload. So in that case, you have to provide some support. Okay, so that support is given in the form of a parallel manipulation. So that's what. So this is a parallel robot. This is driven using a 5-bar linkage. Okay. Now here, this is the original link 1 and link 2, and the link 1 and link 2 is supported by link 3 and link 4. What is the advantage? In the original configuration, I should have one motor at the beginning of link 1 and one motor at the end of link 1. In the current configuration that you see, you can have both the motors at joint 1 and at joint 3. That means both the motor will be on the ground. Whereas in the old configuration, motor 2 will be carried by link 1. So unnecessarily you are carrying the motor. Our objective is to carry the load at the end effector. We don't want to carry the robot. For example, we have the weight of a car is 1000 kilogram. Mass of a car is 1000 kilogram, out of which engine may be some 100 kilogram. Engine, if possible, I would like to throw away the engine. Then I can, if I can reduce 100 kilogram, then that means I can have 1 or 2 passengers there, or my mileage will improve. Okay, but that's not possible. You have to carry the engine. So similarly, in the serial configuration, you have to carry one motor at least at a higher level. So unnecessarily. So a lot of energy is consumed. Not only energy is consumed, payload capacity, the ability of the end effector or tool to carry the load comes down. So by having a support this way, you have another configurations. Now we form a loop. We form a closed loop. Both the motors can be kept at joint 1 and 3. In a way, you can, in a way, if I can say in a layman's language, I increase the mileage of the robot, or I increase the energy improve the energy consumption of the motor. Now, for such, this is one thing. The robots are operating at very, very, very high acceleration, very, very high speed. Not just high speed. The robots have, the object that is carried by a robot will be subjected to a combination of linear and angular motion. That means it will be subjected to acceleration in 6 different axes. Acceleration x, x double dot, y double dot, z double dot, then angular acceleration theta x double dot, angular acceleration theta y double dot, angular acceleration theta z double dot. This is called 6 components of acceleration. 6 components of acceleration will be there. Okay, the combination of all of them will result in 3 linear will result in a magnitude of linear acceleration and magnitude of angular acceleration. Okay, so that acceleration is required. For example, you want to carry an object, for example, you want to carry an engine, or you want to carry a window pane of a glass during automotive assembly, window pane of an automobile during automotive assembly. So you have to carry at a very high speed. Sometimes 10, 20, 30, 40 kilogram of tool is attached to this, especially in handling metal molding. Very large amount of load is carried. So the robot may be subject to high accelerations. Therefore, the motors are likely to be very heavy. So having a parallel configuration improves the payload of the system. It will also improve the precision of the system. So when for example, when somebody designed a bullock cart 1,000 years ago, they did not bother about all these acceleration analysis, equations of motion, Newton's law. Nothing is required when you want to design a bullock cart. But when you want to design a horse cart, which will travel much faster, then you need to have some springs and suspension, because horse will run at a higher speed. And next we go for small trucks. Say, for example, auto rickshaw. Okay, you don't have to bother too much because it's going to travel at 30 kilometers, even 20 kilometers per hour. But then modern cars, they travel at 100 kilometers per hour. Racing car will travel at 200, 300 kilometers per hour. Trains in foreign countries, they travel at 200 to even 400 kilometers per hour. So in that aircraft will travel at 900 kilometers per hour. So as the speed increases, it's very important that precision calculations are very important. So in the case of an aircraft, even a small bird hit will lead to accident. So when you travel very fast, you are always in a very dangerous position. Theory is very, very important. Similarly, when industrial robots operate at very high acceleration, most of you would have seen the video of industrial robots. I used to use a colloquial terminology. Industrial robots operate at the slapping speed. You can imagine that you are so angry, you want to slap somebody. Okay, so you will apply all the energies of your muscles to slap somebody, and that's a very high acceleration. Almost industrial robots will travel at a comparable speed and comparable acceleration. But when you slap somebody at very high speed, you don't carry any load. Okay, but for example, when you run empty-handed, fine. When you want to catch a train in the platform, you have 2 suitcases or 1 suitcase in your hand, then you cannot travel very fast. Even a small slip, you will fall down and you will injure heavily. So therefore, theoretical analysis becomes very, very important. When the robot operates at very small speed, you don't have to bother much about dynamics, because very small speed means very small load, very small power consumption, very small amount of forces are involved. But when the speed is large, load is also large, then either one of them is large or both of them is large, then theoretical analysis is very, very important. So students nowadays, almost even in rural areas, take part in competitions. They don't have to really bother about kinematics and dynamics, because their robots travel at very, very small speed. They hardly carry any load. But industrial robots and any other robot has to carry very heavy loads. Sometimes they have to have a very good reliability. Think of having a robot on the moon mission or Mars planets. So then they should not fail. Therefore, theoretical calculation is very important. Kinematics and dynamics both are required. Kinematics, what is kinematics and what is dynamics? We see So during a fight scene in an Indian movie, so Telugu movie or Tamil movie, okay, our superstars, they don't follow Newton's law. They'll simply fly. Especially in the Antran movie, you might have seen Rajinikanth simply flying like anything, running at whatever speed possible. So so that's all cartoon. In cartoon, you don't bother about the forces and the consequences of the forces. Okay, so Rajinikanth will jump down from 3-story building. You try jumping down just from a ladder in your home, gone, you will break your leg. So cartoon movies, Mickey Mouse cartoons or movies, they don't follow Newton's law. Newton's law is mass times acceleration is equal to the sum of external forces. Okay, so they don't follow that Newton's law, so they don't have to bother about dynamics. So whereas kinematics is the study of the motion of the system without considering or ignoring the effect of the forces or ignoring the presence of the forces. You are interested only in the motion, okay? So only motion is important. The forces that causing the motion is not important. Basically, it's like a divide and rule, okay? I think some viceroy divided West Bengal into 2 parts, and they also divided India and Pakistan. So it's divide and rule. So similarly, you divide the mathematical analysis of industrial robots or complex robotic systems into 2 aspects. One is kinematics, the other is dynamics. In the case of kinematics, you only study the motion of the system without bothering about the forces involved. Whereas in dynamics, you study the motion of the system, but also take into account the forces that cause the motion. The title of the presentation is Robot Dynamics and Path Planning. Okay, for path planning, you would have to bother only about dynamics. I'm sorry. For path planning, it's only kinematics. Okay, but when you carry 100 kilogram as the payload, or when you carry 1000 kilogram as the payload, there is a big difference. Okay, or when you carry 100 kilogram at a small speed, or when you carry 100 kilogram at a fast speed, that makes a big difference. So when the speed is large or the forces involved are huge, then you have to consider the dynamics of the system. So in fact, in robot analysis, you have to study both kinematics and dynamics. Okay, so path planning is also important. So kinematics is the basis, dynamic is also basis, path planning is an application. Okay, if I want to develop a controller, or robot is an automated machinery. Once you program, it will run automatically. When in a robot programming or CNC programming, you don't bother about the forces or cutting forces, etc. When you do CNC programming or robot programming, we don't bother about the forces acting at the joints. We don't bother about the voltage and currents that is consumed by the motors, because those things are taken care of by the electronics inside. So what is the electronics inside, or the motor drive? Each motor will be driven by power electronics. The power electronics will be given commands from the controller or control computer of the robot or CNC machine. So what is the role of the controller is it will break down, it will convert, it will give the required information. That means, for example, to operate a motor, I need to input voltage and current. But the motor of a robot is operating a link. Okay, therefore the torque on a robot joint or robot motor is not constant, whereas the torque acting in the shaft of a household domestic fan, table fan, or ceiling fan, that is constant almost. Whereas in the case of a robot, the torque acting on it will keep on changing. So you have to first estimate for every fraction of a second, at any time t, what is the torque requirement, how much torque should be supplied by a particular joint and at what speed. Okay, N and T, okay, omega angular velocity and tau torque, joint torque, both of them have to be given in the correct measure, neither less nor more, exact quantity. And the values of the motor RPM and the torque, they change every fraction of a second. Now, if anybody is there in electrical engineering, they'll know that there are different types of motors. So what we use in ceiling fan is a universal motor. There is a special type of motor called servo motors. Okay, most motors cannot control torque and speed at the same time. Okay, you can either get a required torque, same with our IC engine, automobile. So if you want to, for example, if you want to travel, if you want to climb up the hill, you have to reduce the speed. Okay, you cannot say I will climb up the hill at 40-50 kilometers per hour because the torque engine, because the torque and the speed cannot be controlled at the same time. Okay, whereas the robots, for motion control requirement, torque and speed have to be controlled at the same time. Sometimes the robot will be carrying 100 kilogram, sometimes it may be carrying 200 kilogram, or sometimes it may be carrying 100 kilogram at certain acceleration. So mx double dot is 100x double dot. Now x double dot is a variable, so and x double dot will keep on changing every fraction of a second. Therefore, the current V and the voltage V and the current I supplied to the motor must keep on changing every fraction of a second, and that is the role of the motor drive. How much current is required at any time t, how much voltage required at any time t, that depends on at what acceleration the robot is going to carry the payload, at what velocity it is going to carry the payload, how much mass it is carrying, okay, and at what path it's going to carry. That is where path planning is important. So path planning is, I want to go along a certain path at a certain speed, certain acceleration, carrying certain mass. That is, now for that, how much torque requirement is there? That is how much torque, how much speed at the joint level. Okay, that is calculated at the path planning. Once path planning is done, once you know how much torque at what speed, then you can decide what should be the voltage and what should be the current supplied to any particular joint. So far I'm talking about only one joint, and robot will have many joints. So number of degrees of freedom is equal to the number of motors required. Okay, industrial robots will have 6 motors. Okay, snake robot will have 10 motors, 20 motors, or 100 motors, depending on the requirement. Okay, so each of these motors will have voltage and current continuously varied as per the requirement. So here you look at the Delta robot, in the Delta robot configuration. Some of the joints will be idle joints. That means they will be passive joints, active joints, passive joint. Look at the picture here. Joint 1 is active, there will be a motor. Joint 3 will be connected to a motor. So these two, joint 1 and 3 as active motors. I'm sorry, joint 1 and 3 are active joints. Joint, okay, this joint here, for example, joint 5. Joint 5 will not have any motor, no power input, no torque input at joint 5. It's called a passive joint. So parallel robots will have many passive joints and some active joints. So this is another application of this is a 6-legged robot developed by IIT Bombay some 17-18 years ago. So here you see they use each of these legs is similar to the 5-bar linkage, right? Similar to the 5-bar linkage. This is called parallelogram mechanism configuration, similar to mini drafter, for example. Okay, each leg is modeled after mini drafter or 5-bar linkage. So the advantage is you don't have any motor in the knee. The motors can be kept in the main chassis of the robot. Okay. And this is different applications of robotics. This is called rehabilitation robotics. Rehabilitation. So disabled people. So you see, this is a robot. This is a robot. It's like artificial arm, but which, okay. And this artificial arm is connected to the human person, disabled person. Then the robot can operate. But this robot will get signals from this is called brain computer interface. It gets like ECG. There are a lot of electrodes. From these electrode signals are obtained, and these signals are decoded using artificial intelligence to find what does the person want, whether he wants to raise his arm or lower his arm, whether he wants to open the fingers or close the fingers. So these are, because nobody can program these robots. Every motion of the artificial arm will be different. Okay, every time they will not be repeated. Whereas the industrial robot, same operation will be repeated thousands of times. So this is a different requirement. Okay, but even here, you have to find out what will happen if this robot joint is moving faster than required or slower than required. Then it will fly away from the human person who is wearing it. So dynamics is very important here. Okay. Is developed by Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. In fact, one girl fell down in Bombay. She fell under the trains and lost both of her hands. So Autobach is a company that specializes in this kind of arms. So believe me, this is a robot. It's called prosthetic robot. Each arm is a robot, and it operates like I told earlier. Okay, so we're using this. She could even draw her signature. So CMC Vellore, Christian Medical College Vellore, Professor Devasahayam, he's also developing low-cost systems. This Autobach hand is from a German company, very costly. And Professor Devasahayam in rehabilitation, biomedical engineering department of Christian Medical College Vellore, he's working on developing low-cost systems because many laborers, they can't spend a lot of money. So he's using low-cost material. He's trying to develop. Telerobot is another. What is telerobot? For example, I am a surgeon. Let's say I want to operate somebody in Chittoor. Okay, so or CMC Vellore, a surgeon in CMC Vellore will have to do a quick referral of a patient in. I think Christian Medical College has a branch in near Chittoor. Okay, CMC Vellore to CMT Chittoor. You want to do some operation. So the main surgeon will be in CMC Vellore, but the patient will be in CMC Chittoor. So this kind of thing is telerobot. Another application of telerobot is operating nuclear power plant. Because of radiations, a 20-meter wall, glass wall of 20-meter thick glass wall will be separating the operator and the reactor zone. Okay, therefore nobody can go inside. So every operation has to, even if you want to remove the fuel or add a fuel, whatever, anything, any mechanical, any pick-and-place operation has to be done in a telerobotic thing. So this is one small tabletop model developed by my student when I was in Vellore Institute of Technology using low-cost components. So anyway, so that's not the discussion. You can use software like MSc ADAMS. ADAMS stands for Automatic Dynamic Analysis of Mechanical Systems. ADAMS, like, any problem that we discussed in mechanics of machines, mechanism analysis, whether kinematics or dynamics, vibration problems, so all impact problems, all those things can be done using ADAMS software. This software is now owned by MSc. It was developed by a professor in a foreign university, but MSc software has taken over. So we use this software to model a biped robot, robot, two-legged robot. It's below hip, only two legs connected by a common chassis. no upper body. So one advantage of using the software is you don't have to know too much about the theory behind robot analysis. You just model the mechanism in the software. Little bit of basic theory of mechanism is fine, because to understand the results produced by the system, by the software. Okay, so you can use this. In fact, it may also be possible to find out how much is the torque required for a given motion, for a given walking pattern, how much torque will be required at each joint, okay, at what speed. So omega t is equal to vi. Omega t is the mechanical power, t is the torque, omega is the angular velocity. V multiplied by I, voltage multiplied by current, is the electrical power. So amount of electrical power supplied must be equal to the amount of mechanical power required at each joint. So omega requirement must be satisfied, torque requirement must be satisfied. That is done by independently controlling V and I at every fraction of a second. That is called servo control. If you control only V but not I, or you can control only current but not voltage, that's not servo control. If you can control voltage and current at the same time, that is called servo control. Such motors which are capable of controlling both current and voltage are called servo motors. Servo motor can be DC motors or AC motors. So DC motor will be able to kind of produce the required voltage, will be able to, you can control voltage and current simultaneously if the motor is either a compound, if the DC motor is of compound type or shunt type. Series motor, it cannot be a servo motor, but shunt type or compound type can be a servo motor. So in the case of an AC motor, they can control voltage, current, and also the frequency. Okay, nowadays I find industrial robots are using AC motors also, because they can control voltage, current, and frequency also. So this is using some low cost material and low power motors. We were able to, we developed some, using aluminum frames, we developed the structure. But the problem with this structure is it cannot walk effectively, because it cannot supply the required amount of, because we used a small servo motors that may not be able to support the required amount of power. But we used it for studying the kinematics and making an initial prototype. Okay, so now I will venture quickly into robot kinematics. We have 10 minutes left. I don't mind spending some more time, but I don't know, audience may be impatient. So by at this time, I'll give a break of 1 minute or 2 minutes for questions. It's not a coffee break, but we can have questions.
Yeah, Mamakesh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Professor Elila
Can I
Rasu?
ask? Yes, sir. Sir, actually, I have one clarification. Hello, am I audible, sir?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Hello, organizers?
Yes,
Or
I
any
am.
audience?
Hello, I am Professor Ederson, sir. Am I audible?
Looks like somebody, I think Mr. Satyamurthy K. So I don't have the power to enable your mic. So can you
Yes,
chat?
sir. Satyamurthy Garu, you can ask now to the speaker now.
Can you, I think only the organizers can enable your, yeah, your mic is enabled, you can
Yes.
please speak.
Yes, just now enabled, sir. Satyamurthy Garu, you can talk
Your
now.
mic is disabled again, yeah. You can speak, please. I don't hear anything. Or please text your question. You raised your hands, please text.
So, Ederson, sir, you can talk, sir.
Yes. Yep. Professor, this is Dr. Ederson. Am I audible, sir? Hello?
Or you can call my number on phone.
Hey, Mamakesh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir is not getting my voice, I think so.
Oh, everybody is at home, including the organizers. Okay.
Hema Magesh, I think
I think I see some Ilamaran. Ilamaran was he my student? I don't know. Okay. So you feel free to text. I don't know whether text you can text. There's a chat option. Okay. So anybody else from the audience? Any questions so far? Okay, I'll just move ahead. So now I'll quickly look at the presentation outline. The rest of the outline for the rest of the presentation. You need position analysis, velocity analysis, and acceleration analysis. You have to do all these three things. For robot analysis, you have to do these three things: position analysis, velocity analysis, and acceleration analysis. So now position analysis and velocity analysis, these two are basically kinematics. Okay, force is not related to velocity, let's say. Position is not related to velocity, let's say. I'm talking about the Newton's law. What is Newton's law? Mass times acceleration is equal to force or torque. Okay, so therefore, Newton's law relates force. Therefore, Newton's law is nothing but dynamics. Equations of motion is dynamics. Okay, whereas these kinematic equations are not dynamics equations, they are only algebraic equations. Position analysis and velocity analysis are only algebraic equation, whereas dynamics involves acceleration and force. Okay, so they are differential equations. X double dot will appear in this equation. Okay, then equations of motion always will involve x double dot acceleration, x double dot, y double dot, z double dot, or if you are talking of angular motion, theta 1 double dot, theta 2 double dot, etc. Okay, so first two, position analysis and velocity analysis, are kinematics. Path planning is also kinematics, whereas acceleration analysis is dynamics. So for position analysis, you use rotation matrix, homogeneous transformation matrix, and DH notation. What is position analysis? And if you know what is DH notation? Using DH notation, you derive the homogeneous transformation matrix. That is called DH transformation matrix. Okay, this is position analysis. What is the purpose of position analysis? Let me show this schematic diagram of an industrial robot. What is the purpose of the position analysis? That means each joint, J1, J2, J3, they are all angular joints in Puma. In the case of Puma, all joints are rotational joints. All joints are revolute joints. Okay, so each joint position is denoted by theta I. For joint I, the corresponding angular position is theta I. So you have theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, theta 4, 5, and 6. 4, 5, and 6 are wrist motions. Wrist motions are tool rotations, tool orientation. In fact, J4, J5, and J6 together contribute the equivalent of spherical joint. Equivalent of spherical joint. J1 and J2 and J3 are J1 is called the shoulder, J2 is called J1 is called the base axis, J2 is the shoulder, J3 is the elbow. J3 is the elbow. J4, J5, J6 are wrist joints. Now, what is the purpose of position analysis? Is given at any, as I told you, when the robot is in motion at very high speed, theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, up to theta 6, they are all functions of time. They change every fraction of a second. They keep on changing every fraction of a second. Okay. Therefore, let's say I take a, when the robot is operating at very high speed, I take a photo. I take a photo only, not video. Therefore, so theta 1, theta 2 have got specific values. For a given specific value for theta 1, theta 2 up to theta 6, I want to know what is the position and orientation of the tool. That is called position analysis. Okay. What is velocity analysis? If J1 is rotating at theta 1 dot, angular velocity, J2 is rotating at angular velocity theta 2 dot, etc., etc. If J6 is rotating at angular velocity theta 6 dot, then what is the speed at which the tool is moving? The tool is moving at x dot, y dot, z dot, linear velocities, and it also has pitch velocity, pitch angular velocity, yaw angular velocity, and roll angular velocity. Okay, J4, J5, and J6 together is called pitch, yaw, and roll. J6 is the roll. It will rotate about its own axis. J6. J5 and J4 are a combination of pitch and roll motions. Pitch means up and down motion. Yaw means left and right roll motions. And this one is sixth axis is roll motion about its own axis. So that is velocity analysis. Acceleration analysis. In the case, if you want to derive the equations of motion, then you have to do acceleration analysis. Only after doing acceleration analysis, you can derive the equation of motion. Only if you derive the equation of motion, you will be able to find out how the torque requirement at every joint changes. What is the torque requirement at joint ith joint? Joint number I, what is the torque requirement at velocity of the joint I? Like that, for 6 joints, you have 6 different equations of motion. So equations of motion will be a set of coupled second order ordinary differential equations. The derivation of equations of motion is done by 2 methods. One method is Lagrangian formulation. Lagrangian formulation is very simple, conceptually very simple. Whereas recursive Newton-Euler formulation is conceptually complex. Okay, but it is easier. It can be done in an iterative fashion. Whereas Lagrangian formulation is easy for small systems. For example, if I want to derive the equations of a motion of a simple pendulum or double pendulum or 3-link pendulum, then I can use Lagrangian formulation. If I want to derive the equation of a motion of a snake robot, then Lagrangian formulation will take weeks together to and Lagrangian formulation has to be derived manually, whereas recursive Newton-Euler formulation may be computerized. Okay, so in fact, when the robot controller, it may be continuously evaluating the Newton-Euler formulation. So using these methods, you can derive the equations of motion. If you derive equations of motion, that is nothing but robot dynamics. So I want to know whether organizers are available. It's 5 o'clock. Whether I can continue for some more time or whether I should stop. Of course, all participants are in the comfort of their home.
Yes, sir. You can continue for some more time.
For kinematic analysis, we use the rotation matrix. Somebody. So from Waymo Institute of Technology, there is a message. Participants can text your doubts in the chat. You can also raise your hands, then they will enable the mic for you. Okay, somebody, Mr. Uday Kumar, has written feedback link, but your question is not full. What do you mean by feedback link? Your question is only 2 words.
No. You don't bother about that, sir. Please continue. I think asking for the feedback of the entire day.
Please ask a full sentence as a question.
So that question is not related to robotics, sir, on the topic,
Somebody
sir.
is talking. I think Professor Elilarasan is
Yes, sir.
talking.
Yes,
but I
sir. Yes,
don't
sir.
hear.
Yes, sir. Am I audible to you, sir? Sir, are you hearing me, sir?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Hello. Hello. Hema Magesh. Hema Magesh.
Sir, yes, sir.
Why, sorry, I think expert not able
Hello?
to hear our voice. I think so, huh?
Sir, also in unmute condition only, sir. But I don't know why.
Okay, so we have 145 participants. Great. There are panelists also. Hello?
Sir, one question raised by a participant, sir. Hello.
Yeah, some questions are there, looks like.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Santosh Kumar. He's saying nice session. Then Mr. Bandela Rajashekar is asking, what about nanorobots? Heard nanorobots using for resisting coronavirus. Mr. Satyamurthy, K. Satyamurthy, he is asking development of robots for fighting corona. So I'm afraid I'm not the right person to talk about. Thank you, very good information. So yeah, a lot of participants are appreciating the session, but okay. So Mr. Pawan Kumar and Mr. Viru, Maheshwar Rao, Karna, and Mr. Kati Pedaraj. So they've said, okay, nice information, they've said, but I would like to hear some questions from you. Okay, the questions by Mr. Rajshekar and Mr. Satyamurthy are similar. One is asking how you can use robots for COVID situation. Another one is asking how nanorobots can be used for coronavirus. So actually, and another person, Mr. Obelesu Patri, is Paturi. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrongly. How robots are working in medical application. Okay, all three questions are similar. So let me, so first of all, coronavirus. So I don't know. So there are two aspects to fighting corona or any disease. One is managing the situation. Okay, like firefighting, if there is a disaster. So how do you manage the disaster situation outside the body? The other one is how do you manage the disease inside the body? So in fact, one thing is called targeted drug delivery. Targeted, in fact, President of US, President of America, Trump asked this question, and the whole world made fun of him. He said, you say sanitizer is the simple solution for killing the coronavirus. Okay, then why not spray the pesticide or sanitizer directly in the throat or the lungs, because the virus can thrive only in the throat and the lung. So why don't you send? Okay, the whole world mocked at him. Probably, I think, so I'm not familiar with nanorobots. Nanorobots can be used for direct drug delivery. Suppose you want to spray, you can't drink say sanitizer. Okay, you drink alcohol thinking that it will kill. Okay, it may kill say 10% of virus in your throat, but what about the lungs? You cannot send alcohol inside the lungs. So you can send, so therefore if you want to spray alcohol inside the lungs, maybe you have to spray in small quantities. So for that, probably nanorobots can be used. So nanorobots should be of the size of a small capsule tablet. Okay, so you can swallow. So once inside, it should deploy. In fact, more than the nanorobot, nanorobot is much more smaller. Virus is much smaller than nanorobots. Okay, so people are working on micro robots, so you can swallow. For macro level applications, for example, you swallow a micro robot and the micro robot will swim inside. It will enter, once it enters your intestine, okay, then suppose there, I've read one paper where they have a camera in the micro robot and it sends pictures. Okay, nobody has seen the interior of the intestine of a living person. So if you want to take that image, probably you can have micro robots, swallow the micro robots, they can do. Nano robots, they work at even minute level. For example, you want to repair cells, or you want to fight maybe some 10 viruses, 100 viruses at a time. Then micro robots is too big for that. So you may have to go for, nano robots will be very small. Micro robots can be handled using the same technology of integrated electronic circuits, but nano robots will work at a much smaller level, cell size, say 10 power minus 9 meter. So they can go inside the bloodstream. Probably they can go inside the bloodstream. If there is a heart block, then they may be able to, deliver drugs, etc. So that is one. So, and irrespective of the disease, whether it is COVID or something else, so nanorobots should perform that function. I believe nanorobots is still at very, very, very low research level. Micro robots have come to some level. In fact, somebody, I don't remember the university, I used to have that picture. I showed that picture also, insect robot. Insect robot has been developed already. So, is there any specific robot to clean septic tanks so that we can save people who work cleaning the septic tank from harmful gases? This is Professor Elilarasan. I think somebody in Kerala has developed septic tank cleaning. See, you have to in the beginning I showed my first slide was difference between automatic machine and a robot. The trend is wherever possible, manage with automatic machine. Only if it is not manageable, you should go for robot-like situation. So a lot of septic tank cleaning trucks are now available, even in small towns like Vellore, Chittoor, they are available. So only thing is we don't utilize them. Okay. So even in Erode, some 2-3 years ago, in Erode in Tamil Nadu, they have a industrial estate where 4 or 5 laborers died when cleaning the tank of a chemical industry. So it happens. So whether how to develop a robot for septic tank, how to develop a robot for saving children from bore wells, why there are no solutions available? Number one, it's very, very complicated because every situation is different. Every borewell is different. And every child who gets stuck into the borewell is of different size and different heights. They get stuck up. So, if you want to develop a machine or a robot, you need a lot of investment. So you can't spend lakhs and crores of rupees just for developing one machine for one incident. That's one reason why robots have not been developed for these applications widely. Okay, so It is
Correct.
possible. It requires time and investment.
Sir, two people have
So-
been raised their hands, sir, to talk with you now.
Any other question?
Sir, Munratam sir, you can talk now, sir, with the speaker now.
So, I think Professor Elilarasan can tell me how long can continue.
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Good to see the principal of WEMU is also there.
Sir, am I audible to you, sir?
Okay, so I'll quickly show rest of the slides. The rotation matrix is one thing that is used for analysis, kinematic analysis. Rotation matrix is a 3x3 matrix, orthogonal matrix. Its determinant is 1, and combination of these two properties called orthogonal matrix. Each column represents the direction cosines of frame B related to frame A. Now, why do we need the rotation matrix? Because suppose I have a inertial frame or reference frame A, whereas the tool or the object is held by the robot, and the position and orientation. Now, each object or each tool handled by a robot are of different size and shape, different size and different shape, different geometry. Therefore, mathematically, they are replaced by simply a coordinate frame. Similar to every student is identified only by roll number or registration number. Every glamorous actor is decided only by the vital statistics. Like that, we replace the actual body by a coordinate frame, because we are now interested only in the motion. Okay, so the frame B is called body frame. It represents any body that is handled by the object, rigid body. The bodies are assumed to be rigid body. Any frame A is assumed to be a stationary frame. Okay, any frame is a stationary frame. Okay, but then their role can be changed. A can be a moving frame, B may be a stationary frame. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter whether A is stationary or B is stationary, or whether both are stationary or both are moving. It is immaterial. The only thing is one is stationary, one is reference frame, the other is moving frame. The relation between A and B, that means orientation between A and B, is given by the 3x3 rotation matrix. And the distance between the object or the position of the object is nothing but the position of the origin of the frame B relative to frame A. That is a position vector PA. Okay, the combination of the position vector P in PA and the rotation matrix RBA, rotation matrix of frame B. When I may say frame, I mean coordinate frame. Rotation of frame B, rotation matrix of frame B related to frame A. Irrespective of the size, shape, geometry of the object, the matrix is always the 3x3 matrix. Okay, now what is finite rotation? We are interested in looking at the motion. Finite rotation means that, let's say the robot has to move from certain point P1 to another point P2. Okay, so one configuration to another configuration. Okay, so now that is done by a number of rotations. We don't bother how it is achieved. We only so let's say now frame B is there. It may become some other frame B dash. Okay, so therefore B and B dash, between B and B dash, some rotation has taken place. So we can have a rotation matrix of B dash relative to B. Okay, then we have a rotation matrix from B to A also. Both of them can be multiplied together to obtain the rotation matrix of B dash relative to A. This is called finite rotation. Finite rotation matrices are used to describe the position of the points referred in one frame with respect to another frame. Now that this finite rotation can happen in a sequence. Okay, Okay, you have to reach, I'll give you an example of a DH transformation. Therefore, there are certain rules. Okay, so initially you assume that the rotation matrix is identity matrix. That means initially you assume that both the rotation frames are, both the reference frame and the other frame are same, one and the same. Therefore, the rotation matrix is identity matrix. If the rotation occurs about an axis of the reference frame, then pre-multiply the rotation matrix. Otherwise, post-multiply. And repeat the above rules until all finite rotations are considered, and the resulting rotation matrix is called the composite rotation matrix. Now, there is also homogeneous transformation matrix. Rotation matrix is a 3 by 3 matrix. So you see this here. You see this here. Now, as I told you, to describe the rotation matrix describe only the orientation of B relative to the coordinate frame A. What about the origin? The origin of A and B are different. So that is represented by the position vector P of A. Let's say the position vector P when reference with relative to A is given by Px, Py and Pz, then I am adding one more column. Okay, then it becomes a 3 by 4 matrix. 3 by 4 matrix. Then I add one more row that is called homogeneous matrix. If I add one more row, it becomes a square matrix. Square matrix will be homogeneous matrix. So, and look at this, Px, Py, Pz is replaced by Px, Py, Pz, then fourth element 1. Px, Py, Pz is the position vector. Px, Py, Pz with another number that is called the homogeneous form of the position vector. Why do you need the homogeneous form? Because this number at location 4, 4, fourth row, fourth column, the number is the scaling factor. It's called the scaling factor. What about these 3 zeros? Okay, then the first 3 elements in the last row, in the bottommost row, they define perspective transformation. What is perspective transformation? When you take image when you consider image processing or computer vision or robot vision, the camera is the input. Even our human eyes are cameras. Okay, the camera provides perspective transformation, 3-dimensional view. Therefore, how the original dimension, for example, we see some Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal, if you take a photo, you don't get like orthographic, you get perspective projection, 3-dimensional view. Okay. Similarly, so these 3 elements define the camera properties or perspective. Camera behaves like a perspective transformation system. So in this case, we are talking about kinematics and dynamics. In kinematics and dynamics, there is no camera, so it is 0, 0, 0. Always you can blindly assume that any matrix used in kinematics and dynamics, bottom row will be 0, 0, 1. And when we discuss kinematics and dynamics, we are interested in true values, actual value. We don't want to do scaling factor. Whereas in the case of camera or computer vision or CAD model also, you zoom in and zoom out. Okay, there in computer graphics, the scaling factor will be different. When you zoom in and zoom out, if it is 1, it is 1:1 ratio. It can be less than 1 or greater than 1 to define zoom in or zoom out. Okay, this is the 4 by 4 homogeneous transformation matrix. Denavit and Hartenberg, 2 scientists, basically mechanical engineers, who are working on kinematics. Okay, they thought, every link. Many of the mechanical engineers, we have dealt with 4-bar mechanism, grasshopper mechanism, etc., etc. All these mechanisms, we assume that the link is a straight line. But in reality, link is not a straight line. For example, the links used in sewing machine, tailoring machine, or textile machinery, they are not straight lines. Cams used in machinery, they are not straight lines. Our bones, they are not straight lines. Okay. Therefore, there must be a unified representation All of them are assumed to be rigid body. Rigid body is something that will not break, that will not deform. It's an assumption. Okay, they do not deform, they do not bend. That is the assumption. And in kinematics and dynamics, we assume that they don't deform. They are rigid bodies. Okay. In soft robotics, you assume that they deform. You cannot assume that our teeth is a rigid body, our tongue is not rigid body, our lips is not rigid body. If my tongue and lips are rigid bodies, then I cannot speak. Okay. So tongue is not rigid body. So when you similarly fins are fins of wings of a bird or fins of a fish, they are not rigid body. So that comes under the area of soft robotics. Whereas in kinematics and dynamics, we assume that they are rigid bodies. Okay. So there is a unified representation is required. So Denavit and Hartenberg proposed that any link, irrespective of its geometry, okay, some links may be in the shape of L, some other links may be in the shape of J, some other links may be having a very complicated geometry. Irrespective of that, all links can be represented by 4 parameters. Those parameters are called Denavit-Hartenberg parameters. Okay, there are 4 parameters. 2 parameters are link parameters. 2 parameters are joint parameters. The moment you froze the design, the moment the robot is manufactured, link parameters will not change. What are the link parameters? It's physically equivalent of link length and twist angle. Link length will not change. Okay, twist angle will not change. Our bones have certain length. How will you measure the length of the bone? How will you measure the twisting of the bone? Each of us, our bone is slightly twisted, and people unfortunately affected by polio or some other disease, their bones are highly deformed. So you need to also industrial robots, some links will be of L shape, okay, or some links will be straight links only. For example, the link main portion may be straight, but the joints axis may be different. So you need a unified representation. One is called geometry parameters. They are link parameters. Equivalent of link length and equivalent of twist angle. Link length is called AI minus 1, alpha I minus 1. Joint parameters are variable during when the robot moves. Link parameters will not change when the robot moves. When I walk or when I run or when I sleep, my bone lengths do not change. Whereas joint parameters, when I walk or move, my joint angles change. So joint angle is, one is theta, it must be theta I, and joint origin offset, that is called D. Okay, so D forget the suffix for the time now. Okay, now each link is given by number, serial number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I minus 2, I minus 3, I minus 2, I minus 1, I plus 1, I plus 3, up to n number of links may be there. Okay, so in this case he has taken link I minus 1, and at the beginning of the link there is a joint, at the end of the link there is a joint. Similarly, link I, there is a joint at the beginning and there is a joint at the end. These 2 joints will have common axis. Okay, similarly joint I minus 1 and joint I minus 2, one joint link I minus 2 and link I minus 1 are joined at joint I minus 1. At joint I or axis I, link I and I minus 1 are joined. This is the notation. This is 1DH notation. And now this joint is a link in space. Okay. In first year engineering mathematics, we teach 2 straight lines in space, right? 2 straight lines in space. Okay, you can imagine one pencil and another pencil, hold it in any orientation, in any position possible. So they represent 2 straight lines in a 3-dimensional space. Then using the formula that was taught in engineering mathematics, I can find the common normal between the 2. Not only the common normal, we can also find the shortest distance between the 2 axes. axis I minus 1 is a straight line, I is a straight line. They are both straight lines in space. They are non-parallel, not intersecting each other. So therefore, the distance, there is a distance between the two is not constant. At different point it will be different. But there is one point at which you can find the shortest distance, and that is that line. The line along the shortest distance is the common normal to the thing. So that value, shortest distance, is taken as the link length. Okay. Then there is an origin here. This is the origin for the previous link, coordinate frame for the previous link, coordinate frame for the next link, and coordinate frame for another link. The distance between the two is called, along the axis, is called D. Okay, D is the origin offset. Okay, AI and link length and the joint origin offset. And the link, assume that link I minus 1 is stationary, link I is rotating about this axis, that is theta I. That angle of rotation is theta I, that is measured about this axis. Okay, there one more thing is the twist angle. What is the twist angle? Now bring axis I without changing the orientation, bring axis I from this point, okay, closer to the link I minus 1. Axis I must be brought together, brought to I minus 1 gradually without changing the orientation. Finally, the distance between them will become 0. At that point, measure the angle between these two straight lines. That is nothing but the origin offset. Okay, this is another notation. Like I said, each, let's say here link I minus 1 and I are shown. Link I minus 1, as I told you, every rigid body is replaced by coordinate frames. Okay, for the green link, I have a coordinate frame I minus 1. Okay, then so these coordinate frames can be kept at the beginning of the link. Okay, then in this notation, the coordinate frame for the I minus 1 is kept here, kept at the end of the link. Let's say this is the beginning of the link, this is the end of the link. Okay, this is the beginning of violet color link, beginning of end of link I. So the coordinate system for link I is located at the end of the link, and the z axis of I minus 1 will be along this axis, along the joint connecting I minus 1 and I. That is the convention. That is a convention. Then similarly, you will follow, then the next axis, joint I plus 1, the coordinate frame representing joint I plus 1 is nothing but xi, yi, zi, and zi will be along the axis of rotation. Okay, zi minus 1 will be along the axis of rotation of this axis. Now, if you can think of I minus 1 frame as the reference frame, I as the moving frame. I want to convert. Okay, I want to convert apple to orange. I want to convert I minus frame to I frame. So what should I do? I have to translate this from here to here and then make rotations possible required. I may have to do 2 translations and 2 rotations. Then you can convert I minus 1 to I. How do we do that? Do this. First, you start with the origin of I minus 1 and translate in a linear fashion. Don't change the orientation. Translate along zi minus 1 by a distance di. Then then you rotate about this zi minus 1 by an angle theta I. Okay, 1 rotation, 1 translation. Next, translate along this axis AI. Earlier I have told you how you will find the axis AI. That is nothing but the common normal between the two. I think I am supposed to stop now. So just give me a minute. Okay, so now you following this, then one more rotation you can do, then you can finish, you can achieve this. How do you do that? So I may not discuss much, and this is the procedure to obtain this. This is the procedure to obtain this. Following 4 operations, 4 transformations, you can do it. T1, T2, T3 and T4. Following T1, T2, T3, T4, you can, T1 is rotation by, T1 is rotation by theta about xi minus 1. T2 is rotation by, T2 is translation. Translation means linear motion by a distance a along xi minus 1. Then T3 is rotation of theta about zi. T4 is translation by a distance d along zi. And then I define S1 as the matrix multiplication T1, T2, S2 as matrix multiplication T3, T4, and S is nothing but S1 multiplied by S2. Okay, matrix multiplication is not commutative. Therefore, you have to be very careful in following this order. Okay, this is how. Then for each robot, you have to formulate this table. Okay, this is called DH transformation table. Once you have DH transformation table, you have to measure all these parameters. Okay, either from the drawing or from the CAD model, you can measure these values, or physically you have to measure for the robot. Then you substitute the values in this matrix. Then you can do it. You will get the DH transformation matrix. Multiply all the DH transformation matrix, you get what is called OM solution. Now, OM solution is nothing but the coordinate. OM solution is nothing but homogeneous transformation matrix of nth coordinate frame or nth link with respect to the 0th link. Okay, so that will be in the form of a 4x4 homogeneous transformation matrix. PH, PY, PZ will represent the position and position of the tool with respect to the fixed point of the robot, and orientations are given, can be obtained from these 3x3 matrices. Okay, so with this, I think I complete today's presentation. Of course, I have not covered dynamics, and these figures you may find from several textbooks. And then what is okay, I'll just take a phone call. Already it's 5:35. I don't want to. You can please read what is the difference between curve, path, and trajectory. Okay, so actually it is trajectory planning and not path planning. What is the Doctor? I am concluding now. Okay, fine. Yeah. So yeah, so path planning means only the geometry, starting point, end point, and the curve. Trajectory planning means at each point you have to define, you have to identify what should be the velocity. Path is like a railway track, whereas trajectory is the actual journey. Okay, so there is a Cartesian trajectory, joint trajectory. Cartesian trajectory is about the tool, whereas joint trajectory has to be calculated for every joint. Okay, so with this I complete my presentation for today. So these are the books. Almost every book covers except Groover. Groover also covers a little bit. So I recommend these two books. The second book is a little bit highly complicated. There is also one more book written by Professor S.K. Saha of IIT Delhi. There is also another book written by Professor Ashitava Gosal of IAC Bangalore. Book by Professor Gosal covers aspects of flexible robots as well as the parallel robots, whereas S.K. Saha's book will cover only the conventional topics. So with this, I complete my presentation today. So if you have any questions, you can text, or you can communicate to the organizers. So or to me. So I'll try to take up. So with this, I leave the floor to the organizers. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for all the participants. Still, I find 130 participants are there. That's tremendous. Thank you. Professor
thank you, Professor. Once again,
your voice is not heard.
Yes,
Professor Elilarasu, I don't
yes, sir. Magesh?
There is some problem with your.
Yeah.
Maybe you
unmuted, sir.
remove your headphone and speak then.
No.
Earlier in the beginning of the session, your
Yes,
voice was heard.
Hello.
Some problem with your mic or something.
Hello. Yeah, ma'am, you should talk to Professor.
One
Let
person is
check.
raising the hands.
Yes, sir. I can allow.
Debashish Mishra.
Sir, one more. Our organizer is speaking to you. Is it audible, sir? Ma'am, you talk to.
Yes. Mr. Garu, you can talk now with the speaker.
Yes, yeah, sir. I
Mishra,
want
your mic
to.
is on. If you want, you can speak.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm Mr. Devashish Mishra from. Hello. Are you able to hear, sir? Hello. Hello, sir. Hello.
I think sir has some audio problem. Sir,
Yes,
you
sir.
can text sir now. Sir, Mishra Garu.
Yes, sir. I put on text, sir. Already I put on text question.
Okay, 1 minute, sir.
So Debashish Mishra, you are speaking, but I don't hear.
Sir, I put the question on text, sir.
Sir,
Sir.
please inform the email ID to the participants. Let
Yes.
them send their doubts to the email ID of the resource person.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we announce that we are ending this meeting. Announce that and conclude it.
Dear participants, now I will give that email ID. Through that email ID, you can text your questions.
There is a question answer session. Question answer link is there.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Yes,
seeing
sir.
it just now.
See there, sir.
Yeah, ma'am,
Mr. Arvind Prasad, is there any concept of absorbable nanorobot during drug delivery case? Mr. Nagaraj Reddy, is it possible to use robots in disaster management? Yes. In Bombay, they have used fire. They have developed by firefighting robots. They tried to use it in one fire disaster in Bombay recently. But what happened? The robot did not initially work. Somehow they managed. Then somebody else, Dr. K. Ashok Reddy, professor in mechanical engineering, NCRM, is asking a very relevant question: why robots are not being developed in India? Many things are not being developed in India, including cars. So robots are also not being developed in India. But Tata has developed a robot. Tata has started a robotics division. Tata has a robotics division. I think so. They are selling robots and. Okay. So, Tata has developed a robot, and the CAIR Bangalore Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics, they have developed a robot, and they have given it to. They have transferred the technology to MTAP. So I think Aristo is the name of the robot. Aristo is more for educational applications, but Tata is developing industrial robots. But Tata, for their own industry, still they are using Fanuc-like robots, imported robots. I've already answered about Corona and Nano. how can Mr. Edla Vasudhar is asking, how can we reduce electrical to mechanical parts ratio? Then Mr. Debashish Mishra, can robotic control able to control heat input in welding metals? So see, robot is a motion control system. Robot controls the motion. You don't need a robot to control welding. Okay, there is called process. Process is different. For process control, you need a combination of the two. You have to, the welding temperature should be controlled, as well as the speed at which the welding rod moves. Both of them have to be controlled at the same time. Mr. N.S. Sujit is asking whether it's possible to start third session by 3 p.m. and conclude by 4:30 p.m. I think we'll think about it. Organizers will have to think. Then what is the difference between automatic and robotic control? Robot uses automatic control. Okay, automatic control is a course in electrical, electronics, and mechanical engineering. Robot control requires automatic control. Resource person contact details, I think I showed it in the screen earlier. Organizer will take care. How to reduce electrical to mechanical parts ratio in robots. Mr. Nagaraj Reddy is asking what materials are suitable for manufacturing robot. Robot is a machine, so you can use steel for industrial robots. For space applications, obviously you have to go for aluminum or titanium. For micro robots, you have to use MEMS technology. So for MEMS technology, any material is used, including gold or silver or plastics, and special smart materials are used for MEMS and micro robots. And how to reduce electrical to mechanical parts ratio, I don't know. So already the only thing is electrical motors. Everything else is mechanical. Plus some sensors. There are very few sensors in industrial robots. Plus sensors are required, and pneumatic and hydraulic system for heavy loads are required. So otherwise, but then for controlling, you have to control the voltage and current. You need power electronics, which is heavily electronics. So I guess sorry for taking a lot of time. So I stop here. So thank you, organizers. Please take over. I'm requesting Dr. Rao, you can call me on phone if you want to have any concluding session, concluding points. Professor Elilarasan's voice is not heard at all. Professor Elilarasan, can you call me on phone?
Sir, will write up, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful, informative session. Please end this meeting. Hello? Am I, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's audible.
Yeah, please end the meeting now. Okay.
Yes, sir. Dear participants, good evening once again, all of you. I thank our eminent professor for his wonderful presentation on about robot and part planning.
Professor Elilarasan, your mic is not working. Your mic is not working.
Yes. I think you.
Why don't you call me on phone? I'll put it on the speaker.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you link Professor? Can you put Professor Elilarasan in conference call? Then I can put it in the speaker so everybody can listen. Okay, fine. So fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Elder sir, sir, Elder sir.
I can continue, sir.
You can continue, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So once again, I say good evening to all of you, all the participants and the professor, expert, and I thank our professor for the wonderful presentation about robot and part planning. Sarah has given a very good idea about types of robots and motion and how to control the robots and about the application of the robots. Definitely, expert presentation definitely would be useful for our young mind, young researchers who actually wants to do many researches on this area. And now I finally, and also I thank our professor for immediate consent given for this presentation. I thank on behalf of WAMU Institute of Technology and our participants for his immediate consent to the professor. And I thank all the participants who have listened the session patiently and updated yourself. Thank you once again, all of you. And tomorrow we'll meet. Now I request Hema Magesh to talk about tomorrow's presentations. Thank you all.
Sir, about tomorrow's session, I will share the link through the WhatsApp group only. Thank you all the participants for your active participation. Thank you so much. Sir, shall I close it now, sir?
Yeah.
Professor Edinasan, actually I had muted my speaker. That's why I
Yes,
did
sir.
not.
Yes, sir. That's the problem.
I'm very sorry for giving you wrong feedback.
Yes, sir. Now my voice audible, sir.
Yeah. Audible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, sir. Actually,
Thank you.
yes, sir.